You've got questions, we've got answers. Welcome to the Therapist Question Box, where trauma-trained therapists tackle real questions from real people. I'm your host, Lindsay, bringing you grounded insights you can actually use, brought to you by Therapy Utah. Welcome back to another episode of the Therapist Question Box. We are here to answer your questions. So ask. That is what makes this podcast fun and I want to say exciting, but really it is. It's really hearing from you, the listener, on questions that you're wondering about, your mental health questions. And if they're not for you, just ask for a friend, right? So today I have with me Whitney Evans. Whitney, thanks for being here with us.
Oh, you bet. It's my pleasure.
Always love having you.
Thank you.
Always, always. I think our listeners do too. So really happy you're here.
Thank you.
I'd like you to tell me and our listeners just a little bit about you instead of me introducing you today. I'd like you to introduce you.
You bet. You bet. I'm a clinical mental health counselor, and I'm here in that capacity. And I have a real love for sitting with individuals and getting to know their experience and hearing their story and walking alongside them as they better get to know their own internal experience.
I love that.
And I'm really excited about what we're going to talk about today.
I am too. I'm excited because as you talked about their internal experience, that's what we're going to dive into, is really understanding parts of ourselves, right? And it might feel a little bit strange at first when people hear, like, what does it mean, parts of self? Yeah. But I'll ask the listener question and then we'll go into it. So here's the question. I've heard people talk about parts of themselves, like a part that's anxious or a part that's protective. How do you actually start getting to know those parts? Okay, so I feel like that's somebody that might have listened to some podcasts or had some therapy in the past. So what does it mean when a therapist talks about parts?
Let me say at the outset, it's really common for individuals to wonder, is there something wrong with me if I have different parts of myself? I get that question so often. I almost always speak in terms of inner parts when I'm working with a client. And so I hear this question often. Well, does that mean, do I have multiple personality disorder, right? Yep. What today we called dissociative identity disorder, but in the past, that's what we called it. People wonder about that. But let me reassure that all of us have different parts of us. If we think about the Disney Pixar movie Inside Out and Inside Out 2, I think they do a really good job of portraying that idea and normalizing it, that we all have different parts of us, right? To that question, anxious parts, maybe angry parts, sad parts, fearful parts. And it can be really helpful to distinguish and differentiate parts from each other.
Yeah.
And
why is it so helpful to do that? Like, why do we need to talk about things as parts of us?
Yeah. It helps to increase awareness of one's own internal experience. Before we start to distinguish different parts, we sometimes just feel like a chaotic mess inside. Because oftentimes different parts of us are in conflict with each other. Right? And that makes sense. You can imagine if I've got a really brave part that's excited to do something, but then I've got a really anxious part that's fearful of doing something, it's easy for those two parts to be in conflict with each other. And that can just feel like internal distress that we don't understand.
Yes.
Right? So what's wrong with me? What's going on with me?
Yes. So when you understand, like, oh yeah, the anxious part makes sense, but this other part that wants to do this thing, it makes sense. And it doesn't mean that one's right or one's wrong or I'm crazy because I think both of them. It's just, these are just different parts.
It clarifies things.
Yeah.
And I think clarity is an important and powerful characteristic that we as humans benefit from. Just clearing the fog, getting some awareness, being able to acknowledge something, and then ultimately learning to accept it so that we can work with it.
Yeah. So when you say that, okay, it's acknowledging and then accepting. So if I have this anxious part of me, I don't want to accept it. I don't want to feel anxious. I hate that feeling. So how does that work? How do you accept a part that is really frustrating in your system?
So we can hear how that may highlight some other parts. There's other parts of an individual who hate that part, who want it gone. And it's really important to start, as we're getting curious about parts, start with the idea that every part is coming with positive intention. Yeah. None of our parts are trying to hurt us. Now, they might do behavior or have thoughts and feelings that feel like it hurts us. Ultimately, if we can trust that idea, first and foremost, that our parts do have positive intention, there's a reason that anxious part is doing that job, experiencing it that way. And when we can, again, get to know that part, be curious about it, wonder, what is it showing up to do? How is that anxious experience trying to help me? Then we can start to get clear, acknowledge, and then learn to accept. But it's okay for acceptance to be a little bit down the road.
I was going to say, because some of these parts have wreaked havoc in our lives,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
So for a listener to say, like, okay, if I can get curious about an anxious part, that's fine, but I still hate that part. And I hate the way it makes me feel. And I hate the way I act when I feel that part of myself show up.
And that is okay. As a therapist, I'm going to welcome that part into my office as well, the part that hates the anxious part. We want to hear from that part also.
So we're just dissecting it lower and lower, right? We're just going to keep dissecting. So the part that hates the anxious part is not the anxious part, right? That's another part. And that's what you're saying. Really to know.
I would wonder if that were the case, that that's another internal part of that individual.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. So if you're a listener and you're like, okay, this is kind of interesting, never heard about parts, or maybe I know a little bit about parts, how would someone begin noticing their own parts in just everyday life? What would that look like?
I think one of the most helpful ways to start is to wonder how one experiences that part in or around their body in a literal way. Do I hear that part? Can I see it? Do I have a mental image of that part? Maybe I can see its size, its shape. Maybe it's got persona and I can see its facial expression or its body language. Sometimes it's a sense of that part. Maybe I just recognize, again, perhaps with an anxious part, my stomach hurts when that part is around. That's how I experience that part. But just starting first with identifying how do I experience that part in or around my body.
Okay, so just awareness, like this is where I feel it and this is how it shows up for me, right? Just awareness in or around your body. I like that. And I think we're really good at ignoring our body.
We are.
The truth is we are, right? We're really good at saying like, okay, there's this feeling and you know what? Doesn't matter. I got to go work. I got to push through. I got to do the thing. But you're saying slow down, really pay attention what's going on inside of your body.
And by the way, that sounds like an additional part that has a really high functioning job that probably does it really well. A part that can just keep us one step ahead of the pain, of the awareness, of the
Okay, so you say that this is another part and another part. And I'm like, oh no, where does it end?
That's also something that's so common for people to worry about.
Yeah.
Is there any end to these parts?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, do you have an answer?
I don't have an answer for that. We all have quite a few parts, and most of us have some that are similar to most other people. Most of us have that anxious part, a fearful part, a joyful part, an angry part. But there's also a lot of uniqueness as we start to dig in and discover even more parts that have very particular jobs that are working to survive or manage or live through one's own unique and individual experience.
Okay.
Yeah.
So now that we know, okay, the landscape, how to kind of tell what parts are, the next step I would wonder is, okay, now what do I do with it? Now, okay, congratulations. Now I know that I have this anxious part. Now what do I do about it?
I would say a next helpful step can be maybe get to know that part a little bit. Again, curiosity. We're not going yet for gratitude or acceptance or even compassion for that part, right? Those will come later. But maybe just in the beginning, curiosity. And I like to recommend that people ask questions, have a literal dialogue with that part, inside or outside. Say it out loud, say it in your mind, say it in your heart. Sometimes you start that dialogue by just saying, there you are, or you look familiar, or sound familiar, or feel familiar. And just letting that part know that they're seen, acknowledged, that we're maybe even aware that they exist.
Can we just say that in and of itself is really hard to do? It's really hard.
It is.
Right? Because again, if we're going back to the anxious part, it's like if a person has anxiety or feels anxious and this part shows up, what are they going to do? They're going to try to get rid of it, right? They're not going to try to get curious about it and get to know it. They're going to say, get rid of it. Let's not have that feeling versus, okay, come to dinner. Let's see. Let's get to know you. Let's figure out, that's what you do for a welcome guest, not a part of you that's frustrating. So I think that feels very different for people.
It is very different. And it requires a shift in thinking. It requires being brave and trying a new perspective and just taking a risk and giving it a try and then see what happens.
I will say for myself, when I started doing internal family systems, which that's what parts work is, it's what we're talking about today. And I started doing that and really started to, instead of shoving it down, trying to get curious. And I would always say curious compassion. Like I want to sit in some curious compassion about this part. What's coming up for me and why is it showing up in this way? It completely changed my relationship. And I will say with an anxious part of me. And again, I feel like anxiety has been a part of me for a very long time. And yet when I got curious and compassionate about that part of me, it's really interesting. One, my relationship with that part of me changed. I really got clear like what it was trying to do for me, but also it played a much smaller role in my life than it ever had before, which is so interesting. Like I thought it, sometimes you think, if you shine a light on it,
it's going to get bigger.
It gets bigger.
It's going to take over. It's going to yank the wheel out of my hand and it's going to run the show.
That's right.
That's also a very common fear. What we see happen, however, is more often the opposite.
Which is what my experience was.
Does relax. And think about it. We all want to just be known, seen, acknowledged. And when that happens for us as individuals,
our shoulders
it gives
relax.
a sense of relief.
Yes, absolutely.
It's the same with our parts, particularly when we can meet them with that curiosity and that practice of trying to trust that they are helping. What are you here to help me with? You just feel like hurt to me, but I'm trying to look at you differently. How could you be helping me? And oftentimes that part just in that moment can breathe a little bit deeper, because they do feel more of a sense of welcome, that they matter, and that it's okay for that part to be seen.
I love that. That it's and when you talk about it that way, it's actually really helpful. Like when we feel seen and heard. It's like this sense of relief. Like, okay, I'm seen and heard, and therefore I'm okay. I feel a little better, right? I also think about the fact that sometimes when we try to push something away and we try to not think about it, what does our brain do? It's like, that's all I can think about now,
that's all
right?
You can think about.
Right?
It gets bigger. It pushes back.
That's right.
Especially those parts that really are ready to be seen and known. They will keep knocking on our door. They will keep tugging at our shirt tail.
So we know if a part wants to be seen or known because it keeps showing up in our lives.
It will make it self-aware.
So be aware of that. Instead of pushing it away, try to get curious with that part of you, because it's trying to help you in some way, which again, I think feels crazy to people. Like how can feeling depressed, how can this anxious part or fearful part help me? Like it's wreaking havoc. How can it really help me? But when we get curious, we maybe can get really clear what it's trying to do for us. Yeah. It's awesome. it is a therapeutic intervention that I believe in so wholeheartedly as well, because I think it really does change the way you view yourself and the way you view other people as well. And I would be curious about that. What does it look like when you are, from a parts perspective, right? If we're thinking about these internal parts of self, how you see other people, not just yourself.
I believe it helps me see a person more fully. It helps me to see complex layers. We are not two-dimensional as human beings. And it's so helpful to be able to see all those different layers, all of those different components of an individual's internal experience. And what that does for me, it actually increases my capacity to have unconditional positive regard for that individual. Increases my capacity to share space and have compassion for their struggle.
It's a big deal.
It doesn't make me dislike them more. The more I see their struggle, their pain, parts that misbehave, parts that do things that hurt them and that hurt others, it actually increases my capacity to more fully and highly regard that individual when I see their parts. And I think that happens for us individually when we get to know our parts. We learn to hate ourselves less. We learn to have compassion for and love ourselves more.
So it's
and
the
that's
same
a surprise.
thing. Yeah, it is. I love that idea, though. It's the same thing that you can do for somebody else can be done for you.
We need to do that for ourselves.
Yeah.
We're the only ones that can completely do that for ourselves.
Amen. Amen. We look for it in a lot of different places.
Yes.
But if we can do it for ourselves, we are the only ones that can, right? I love that. So we talked about how we can build a relationship with those parts through curiosity. In addition to that, is there anything that you're thinking, this is a really important part of parts work that you want to share with our listeners?
I think what I would add there is permission and reassurance that it's okay to be in a place of curiosity for a while.
We're not used to sitting in curiosity. It's not very comfortable, right? We like the black and white.
Yep.
This is what it is.
Yep.
Figure it out, move forward. But to sit in a place of curiosity, just what are you doing for me?
Yep.
Why are you here? What do you need? And just asking those questions, right?
Yep.
So if I see you in your car talking to yourself, I won't think it's weird.
No,
I'll
you'll know
just
what I'm doing.
I know exactly what you're doing.
Absolutely.
Because I'll probably be doing it too.
Absolutely.
So it's fine.
Yep.
Yeah, I love that. So sitting in that place for a while, and it's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you notice you're having struggle, talk to somebody.
Yeah.
Come see us. Talk to somebody who understands this idea and can walk alongside you and support you as you do the brave and scary thing of taking a closer look inside. It's brave because it's scary.
Amen. I love that. It's brave because it's scary. And often we need some help.
Yeah.
Because shedding a light on some of those things that have been hidden for so long can feel really scary.
Yeah. And oftentimes we don't do that on our own. So it's okay to seek help.
Most of the time we don't. It's easier not to, right?
Yep.
But when we do, it's incredible what can happen. I will say that therapy is some of the hardest work people will do. And yet it is a work of miracles. It's a life-changing work if you choose to do it.
It is.
Yeah.
And we are witnesses to that.
Amen.
We see that day in and day out.
Yes, we do. And that's why people will say to me, and they probably say to you, like, oh my gosh, this has got to be so hard and so heavy. And I think, oh, yes, and. You see miracles.
It's a great privilege.
It's a great privilege to walk beside when people are doing this work, whether it's parts, whether it's trauma, but whether, they're doing the work of looking at themselves and really trying to uncover what's going on for them.
Yes.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Whitney, thank you so much. I love the thoughts that you talked about, the reminder that there are no bad parts. In fact, there's a book, right, entitled
Dr. Richard Schwartz.
Yep. The developer of
parts.
internal family systems, right? No bad parts that, and to understand that all these parts come with positive intention. I love that reminder. I think it's so helpful to remember that even the parts that we feel like wreak havoc, that their intentions are good. Maybe it doesn't show up well in our lives, but their intentions are
That's
good.
The intention.
That's a big part of it, to understand that intention, right?
Yeah.
And understanding that when we start this work, like for our listeners on their own, really getting clear, like, where do I feel this in my body? Where do I feel it in or around my body? Those were the words I heard you say.
Yes.
And so to really get to understand where that happens. Why, first of all, or not first of all, at the end, why is that important to understand that?
Because that's really where awareness starts, is with our body. That's really how at the core those parts get our attention.
Okay. Yep. And then don't be afraid of curiosity.
Mm-hmm.
Be curious. Sit in curiosity longer, right? Yep. And that curious compassion, I like to add that because I really believe that if I can sit in curiosity and then give myself additional grace and compassion and then do the same for others, it's pretty remarkable what can happen.
You bet.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Whitney. I really appreciate the conversation, appreciate the insights.
You're welcome.
I really do believe and have experienced this, as I know you have and with your clients, that it can be a real life-changing work, understanding these parts of ourselves.
Yes.
So, awesome.
100%.
So great.
Thanks, Lindsay.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much for listening. We hope this episode was insightful around the parts of yourself that sometimes we don't know, that sometimes we think are frustrating, but to really get clear and curious about these parts that are showing up in our lives. Thank you so much for listening. Please share this with a friend or a family member if you think it could help them, and we hope it will. And until next time, take care. That's a wrap for today on the Therapist Question Box. I'm Lindsay Schiss. Thanks for listening. And remember, every question you ask is an opportunity to learn and grow. Brought to you by Therapy Utah.
Hey, this is Kathy Kinghorn. I'm an owner at Therapy Utah. If you'd like to book with one of our trauma-trained therapists, go to www.therapyutah.org. Thanks for listening.